If your client gets through the first 15 years of retirement without depleting income sources, they have a 99% chance of long-term success. That's a game changer. As Kitces puts it, it's a heads you win, tails you don't lose strategy. So welcome back to Vaulted Views. It's the show where we take a higher perspective on building wealth, scaling advisory businesses, and leading with clarity. So let me just start with this. In my opinion, most advisors, they just operate with a low view. They follow the trends, they give advice, and they react. But most successful advisors, the ones with a vaulted view, they don't just advise, they build systems. Systems that guide clients with confidence. Systems that scale their advisory practice without losing their edge. Systems that simplify complex decisions and make their value crystal clear. So today we're talking about one of the best systems I know. And you've heard me talk about it before, and you'll hear me talk about it again, but it's the bucket strategy. And how, when paired with a rising equity glide path, a concept I'm going to discuss in a little bit, it becomes the foundation for delivering smart, strategic, and scalable advice. So this, in my opinion, is the difference between the low view and the vaulted view. Let's just get into it. Like I said before, the low view, it's everywhere. It shows up in default software settings, in static asset allocation models, in annual rebalancing without really a reason or even a strategy. For example, let's take the 60-40 portfolio. It's been the industry's gold standard for decades. But in my opinion, it's outdated and it's inflexible. It's a low view. The vaulted view, on the other hand, it sees deeper. It understands that retirement isn't just about allocation, it's about adaptation. It's about managing risk across time, not just across asset classes. Vaulted view advisors ask, how do I create a system that evolves with my client's life? How do I reduce emotional decision-making during volatile times? How do I design portfolios that are both dynamic and disciplined? That's what we're going to explore with the rising glide path and the bucket strategy. So this is where I went kind of full research nerd. I dove in the work of Michael Kitces, and if you're a financial advisor watching this, we all know who Michael Kitces is. And also Wade Pfau, who I've met several times, great guy. And both these guys, they studied the idea called a rising equity glide path. What it is it flips the conventional wisdom of retirement income planning on its head. Instead of reducing equity exposure as clients age, you start retirement more conservatively, say with only 30% in stocks, and then slowly increase that exposure over time, maybe up to 60 or 70% even in later years. That might sound risky, but it's actually not. And here's what Kitces and Pfau found. They found a static 60-40 portfolio produces a solid 93.2% success rate using a 4% withdrawal strategy. But a rising equity glide path, starting at 30% and rising to 70% equities, that success rate, it jumps to 95.1%. And even if you go all the way up and you continue that glide path to 100% equities in the final years, success is still at 94.5%, which is still higher than just a static 60-40 allocation throughout someone's retirement. Furthermore, a rising equity glide path is also likely to leave more for their heirs. This was made clear in another academic study and something that we've quoted for many, many years. It was in the Journal of Financial Planning. It's titled, Is Rebalancing a Portfolio During Retirement Necessary? The authors were John Spitzer, PhD, and Sandeep Singh, another PhD in CFA. They compared several portfolio methods, including a traditional 60-40 style portfolio, taking systematic withdrawals from the entire portfolio and rebalancing. And they also took a look at a bucket strategy style portfolio by taking withdrawals from bonds first and not rebalancing. So here's what they wrote in their executive summary. Withdrawing bonds first over stocks performs the best of all methods, though the resulting stock-heavy portfolio may make some investors feel uneasy. This method also is most apt to leave a larger remaining balance at the end of 30 years, while rebalancing leaves the smallest amount. Let that sink in for a second. Lower average equity exposure, but higher chance of long-term success. That's unconventional thinking, but it's not a fluke. That's a vaulted view in action. So why does it work? Because it addresses what you already know might be the most important concept in retirement planning: sequence of returns risk. In the first 10 to 15 years of retirement, a bad market isn't just unfortunate, it can be catastrophic. You're withdrawing money for your clients while the portfolio is shrinking, locking in losses that they just can't recover. So the vaulted view approach? Let's start with a lower equity exposure to protect the client when they're most vulnerable during the early years of retirement. And as the client ages, assuming they've made it through the first 10 or 15 years intact, they can safely live with an increase in equity exposure because they've cleared the danger zone. And here's a stat I've shared before. If your client gets through the first 15 years of retirement without depleting income sources, they have a 99% chance of long-term success. That's a game changer. Pull that one out in your next client meeting. They'll love that. And as Kitces puts it, it's a heads you win, tails you don't lose strategy. I like those kind of odds. That's not the low view of reacting to volatility. That's what I call a vaulted view of designing for resilience and upside. And it gets even better when you plug this into a real system. So let's talk about that. This is where theory becomes practice and where the vaulted view shows up, not just in portfolio design, but in how you run your business. The bucket strategy is more than a framework. It's a system for both client peace of mind and scaling your advisory practice. Let's just go through an overview of how the bucket strategy works for a second, just so we're all on the same page. You also have heard this before, but bucket one, it's designed to cover the first 7 years of income invested in safe and stable type investments. And the purpose of that is so clients never have to sell stocks during downturns. Bucket two is designed to refill bucket one beginning in years 8 through 15, and it's allocated more moderately for growth. And then bucket three, that's your long-term growth bucket. This is primarily where you have your equity exposure. This is where the rising glide path actually comes to life. And as clients draw down buckets 1 and 2 over time, bucket 3 naturally grows as a percentage of the overall portfolio. Does that make sense? Bucket 1 spends down, bucket 3 still is growing, bucket 2 spends down, bucket 3 keeps growing, and eventually you have a portfolio. If you don't do any rebalancing, you have a portfolio that contains mostly, if not all, in bucket 3 assets down the road. So when it comes to leveraging the bucket strategy as a framework, you're not guessing, you're not chasing returns. You're implementing evidence-based research and executing a disciplined system. And here's the vaulted view twist. It's not just good for your clients, it's also good for your business. When the bucket strategy is fully integrated in your workflow, clients understand the strategy. Your team also can manage it, and you scale your book without all the chaos. From illustrations to investment decisions to ongoing client reviews, everything clicks. And when markets shift or clients get nervous, guess what? You have built a system for value averaging, rebalancing, and reframing the conversation, not just reactive selling. So in practice, that bucket 3 isn't really going to end up being 100% of the portfolio, but you also do have the ability to take advantage of that rising glide path if you and your client so choose. And so when you look at all of this, that's what I call a vaulted view system, not a one-off tool, not a pitch. It's a way of doing business. So let's bring it home. There are 2 ways to operate in this business. You can live in the low view, reactive, constrained, built on outdated models like 60-40 and systematic withdrawals. Or you can rise to the vaulted view where your practice runs on strategy, structure, and systems. So if you're ready to go beyond giving advice, if you want to architect a business that's built for scale and connect with other elite advisors who are doing the same, I want to invite you to join the Quotient Advisor community. This is where forward-thinking advisors come together to learn how to implement the bucket strategy in real-world practices. Share research like the research I just shared on the rising equity glide path. We collaborate on workflows. review frameworks, and client messaging, and ultimately elevate the way we serve clients. In the community, you also get free access to tools and strategy calls and real-time conversations with advisors who are building the most intelligent practices in the country. So if you want to learn more, visit quotientadvisor.com or download the free app on the App Store or the Google Play Store. And until next time, stay elevated, stay strategic, and stay vaulted.